Gentlemen, welcome. Mesdames et messieurs, bienvenue. Please stand for our national anthem. Thank you all for joining us today to commemorate the national historic significance of the Winnipeg Falcons Hockey Club here in Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame at the Sports Manitoba Centre. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the Treaty 1 territory and that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Je voudrais commencer en soulignant que nous nous trouvons sur le territoire visé par le traité numéro 1 et que les terres sur lesquelles nous sommes réunis font partie du territoire traditionnel des peuples Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota et Dene et de la terre ancestrale de la nation Métis. My name is Terry John, and I am the superintendent for Parks Canada here in Manitoba. I'm very pleased to be here to share this special moment with all of you. Now, I'd like to introduce you all to the official party for the plaque unveiling ceremony. First, we have His Worship Brian Bowman, Mayor of the City of Winnipeg. Next to Mayor Bowman is Colonel Dave Bregstad, proponent of the nomination of the Winnipeg Falcons and author of the book, A Confluence of Destinies, the Saga of the Winnipeg Falcons. Beside Colonel Bregstad is Mr. Jim Busby, historical researcher representing First Lutheran Church. Last but not least, Ms. Kathy Ellison, a descendant of the Winnipeg Falcons herself, and she is here today to represent all the Falcons descendants. I'll introduce the first speaker shortly, but first I'd like to share some information about the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada. La Commission des lieux et monuments historiques du Canada conseille le gouvernement du Canada en ce qui concerne les lieux, les personnages et les événements qui ont marqué l'histoire du Canada. The Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada provides informed and impartial advice to the Government of Canada on matters relating to the commemoration of Canada's history, in particular, which persons, places, and events should be recognized as being of national historic significance. The Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada has members from every province and territory who are scholars or recognized experts in a number of fields that include history, architecture, anthropology, literature, and more. Over more than 100 years, the board's recommendations have resulted in the consignment of more than 3,600 designations of places, people, and events of national historic significance. These designations come along with a bronze plaque, noting their importance in our nation's rich and diverse history. So whenever you come across one of these commemorative plaques in your daily life, I encourage you to take the time to read it, and as so, add to the public appreciation of this country's heritage. And now, I'd like to introduce the Honourable Dan Vandal, Member of Parliament for St. Boniface, St. Vital, who will join us via video to offer remarks on behalf of not Parks Canada, Government of Canada.
Good morning. Bonjour tout le monde. Mayor Brian Bowman and all of you, many of our descendants of the Winnipeg Falcons hockey team here this morning. Thank you all for being part of this important celebration. I'm joining you this morning from Ottawa, the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people, and I honor the lands that you are gathered on as well this morning. It's a really great pleasure to join you today as we officially commemorate the Winnipeg Falcons Hockey Club as a national historic event. In 1909, the Winnipeg Falcons Hockey Club was formed in Winnipeg through the merger of two Icelandic Canadian teams. Named after Iceland's national bird, the Falcons rose from a community organization in our city's West End to become Canadian and Olympic champions. A great success, but also entailed many challenges. In 1916, the team was demobilized. The entire Winnipeg Falcons lineup enlisted. Most of them joined the 223rd Battalion CEF. 6 of the players saw active duty, and 2 of the players were killed. But still, the Falcons persevered. In 1920, through incredible determination and skill, not only did the Falcons beat the University of Toronto for the Allen Cup, they also went on to represent Canada at the Belgium Olympics in that same year to win the first ever Olympic gold medal for ice hockey. Upon their return to Canada, they were welcomed home to a united and a proud nation with applause and a celebration on the streets of our hometown in Winnipeg. That same applause can be heard today. And on that note, I would be remiss not to mention Team Canada, who earlier this year brought home a gold for women's hockey at the Beijing Winter Olympics. All Canadians will be inspired and captivated by the stories of the people, places, and the events that have shaped our great country. Je tiens à remercier les membres de la Commission des lieux et des monuments historiques du Canada qui ont recommandé cette désignation pour leur généreuse contribution au programme national de commémoration historique. Grâce à leur travail, nous créons une riche mosaïque qui illustre les moments charnières de notre histoire. Les générations futures pourront mieux comprendre leur histoire grâce à cette mosaïque et, espérons-le, auront une meilleure compréhension d'eux-mêmes ainsi que les valeurs de notre pays. I'd also like to thank the hard work of everyone involved in the nomination of the Winnipeg Falcons for helping to share this exceptional story with the generations to come. I can't think of a better way to welcome the Winnipeg Falcons Hockey Club to Canada's family of designated places, persons, and events of national historic significance under the National Program of Historical Commemoration than in the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame at the Manitoba Sport for Life Center. On behalf of the Government of Canada and following the recommendation of the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada, I'm extremely proud to present this plaque as a symbol of recognition and celebration of the role that the Winnipeg Falcons Hockey Club played in Canada's history. Merci beaucoup, c'est un plaisir d'être ici. It's a great honor to be part of the celebration. Thank you.
Mr. Vendel. It is now my pleasure to invite His Worship Brian Bowman, Mayor of Winnipeg, to the podium.
Thank you very much for being live. In case you didn't know, I want to thank Minister Vendel for his words and his support. It's always good to see him, whether it's virtual or in person. And it's great to be here with each of you here today. I want to our platform speakers who we're going to hear more from. I want to thank them in advance for sharing the history and the legacy that continues to live on in our community from the Falcons. I too want to begin just by acknowledging that we're on Treaty 1 in Dakota Nation's territory, the traditional homeland of the Métis. It is a great pleasure to join you here today, and thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words. Merci de vous recevoir aujourd'hui. Winnipeg is certainly a grassroots hockey city and a hotbed for our country's national winter sport. In fact, we're home to both the best and the worst whiteouts, one at the arena and the other on the way home from the arena, sometimes in April. We have such a rich hockey history, filled with players born in Winnipeg and players who became stars right here. One thing is for sure, Winnipeggers care passionately about hockey, and you'd be hard pressed to find anyone in Winnipeg today who doesn't have some kind of connection to the sport. And of course, teams like the Winnipeg Falcons who help solidify Winnipeg's reputation as a hockey city. As evidenced by today's event, this has been true for at least 113 years. The Winnipeg Falcons, born in 1909, are a team that has a storied history in our city and in our country. Most notably, of course, as we're all here to celebrate, was the winners of the first Olympic gold medal in hockey. But as a team, they also won the Allen Cup and Western Hockey League Championship. The junior team won the Memorial Cup, and the senior team won the Manitoba Senior Championship. It's fitting to see the Winnipeg Falcons memorialized in this way. I can't thank the federal government enough, and for everybody who championed this and made today possible for doing so. You know, I grew up a Falcon, a varsity Falcon. Slightly different team name, but you know, that name, I have to research whether or not it has any connection. Varsity View, of course, for those that aren't from Winnipeg, is one of our community centers in Charleswood, in the city of Winnipeg. And you know, you get very attached to your team and your team name. My wife and I have two boys. They are going to be future Jets. Just ask them. I don't have the heart to remind my eldest son that he's built like me. But when he made his first team, it was the Robble Park Raiders, and I just said, well, he can't play for them, obviously. So it's going to be a Falcon. And my wife realized I wasn't joking, and eventually she you know, made us do the right thing, and he played for the Raiders for a season. But the Falcons name is one, jokes aside, it's one that really resonates with Winnipeggers and Canadians. And what I love about today's event is the opportunity to continue to educate Canadians about the history and the legacy of this amazing team and what it means for our community. And what's great about sport, especially to do it in this beautiful space, is that it has the ability to bring us together as Canadians, something we need to do more and more in these days. And this is something that we can all celebrate together. So thank you very much for the opportunity again to say a few words. I'm really looking forward to hearing the other speakers today. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. And now, please welcome Mr. Jim Lisby, Historical Research representing the First Lutheran Church, to the podium.
Thank you. I was talking to my friend John Jameson just before this, and he reminded me of something. It's very hard to think of these guys as heroes when they used to be your next door neighbors. And a lot of us grew up with them. John reminded me that at least one of the Falcons chased them off his front lawn for throwing football there. The other thing I'd like to say is Mayor Bowman promised me he was going to talk for 45 minutes. I thought he was off the hook. Vero, Delphine, Heros Istero, Sirsa Glega, Fuels, Giljo, Falcana. welcome honored guests and families of the Falcons. We all know about the Heritage Minutes, historic Canada's 1-minute history lessons on TV. In 2014, after a hiatus of several years, Historic Canada decided to make a new one, recognizing both the 100th anniversary of the start of World War I and Canada's national game of hockey. That story would be about our Winnipeg Falcons. Corkscrew Media shot the project at Calgary, Alberta in June of 2014. It was released at the Canadian War Museum on November the 12th of 2014, and the following day at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. As you watch, pay particular attention to the various expressions and hand gestures you see. All of them have some meaning. They're not random. The story begins in a dressing room in Antwerp, Belgium. The date is April the 26th, 1920. The camera is first on Connie Johannesson and then pans to Coach Eddie Axford, giving his pre-game speech, getting his team ready for the biggest game of their lives. But was it really? We see anxious, nervous players and then flashbacks to the horrible events only a short time before. First, Connie, George Cumbers, and Frank Thorstensen talk of enlisting. The scene was originally filmed in Icelandic, the first language of many of the Falcons. As we go on, one player is shown recovering in hospital after crashing his fighter airplane. Another is fighting through a French town and wounded only a month before war's end. And another gets word, some very hard words, that not all his team is coming home. Finally, it's time to play the game. Once again, it's Connie Johannesson, last man out the door. But I don't want to give it away. So ladies and gentlemen, the Winnipeg Falcons Heritage Minute.
Wasn't easy growing up on Sergeant Avenue. Bunch of Icelandic boys, nobody wanted around. But hockey was good was.
We're signing up yet, George? Only Donnie here runs up with us.
And the war came along. Broke up the team. But we were needed. And we went. And we fought. It cost us too much. I don't know. But I do know one thing. We still have some fight left in us, right, boys? It's the game we can save it for us, for Canada, for the boys of Sergeant Avenue.
The Winnipeg Falcons served Canada in the First World War. 2 teammates never made it home. The rest went on to win the very first gold medal in Olympic hockey.
Thank you so much. And now I'd like to ask Colonel Dave Grebstead, author of the book on the Winnipeg Falcons, and is responsible for the National Historic designation the team received today.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go off script just a little bit. As I researched the story of the Falcons, that's a very moving story, as you can tell. But few people know that Cummers and Thornton's horses were killed within 2 weeks of one another, or died within 2 weeks of one another. And they're now buried only 9 or 10 feet from each other. It's only several in the same Commonwealth war grave in France, so it's quite moving to think of that. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you all today. I'm especially happy because today's ceremony represents the culmination of an undertaking I began over 4 years ago. It was in February of 2018 when I wrote to the Historical Sites and Monuments Board of Canada to nominate the Winnipeg Falcons. The Winnipeg Falcons 1920 gold medal victory as an event of national historical significance. So I'd like to take a few minutes here today to share with you why I felt compelled to do that. I absolutely love Winnipeg. Although I live in Ottawa now, I actually consider Winnipeg my hometown. And I love hockey. In particular, I love the place that the sport of hockey has in the Canadian consciousness. Therefore, while it would seem that the confluence of my love for Winnipeg and the sport of hockey would be sufficient inspiration to nominate the Winnipeg Falcons as a national historic event, in reality, my motivation was far more profound. To explain, I would like to share, perhaps counterintuitively, a quote by the late, great CBC radio storyteller Stuart McLean from when he performed at the Centennial Concert Hall in 2015. Cities have birds associated with them, he said. St. John's huddles, Montreal argues, Toronto parties, Calgary sprawls, Vancouver crowds, and Winnipeg, well, Winnipeg endures. Winnipeg endures. That phrase resonates with me. It resonates with me because it evokes the values of perseverance, determination, and grit that personify the very spirit of Winnipeg. A spirit that was perfectly manifested by the men of the Winnipeg Falcons in light of the numerous challenges they overcame on their way to becoming world champions in ice hockey. We know that their ancestors, the Icelandic settlers in the Interlake Manitoba, had to eke out a meager existence on the prairie in the face of rough terrain, inclement weather, and even a smallpox epidemic. Those who migrated to the city found themselves marginalized and shunned, referred to derisively as ghoulies. The men of the Falcons themselves endured discrimination and were almost shut out of the Manitoba Senior Hockey Club. Most were heroes who answered the call of their country and experienced the ravages of the Great War, where they lost 2 teammates who were reposed forever in foreign soil. Returning victorious from the battlefields, they came home to an economic downturn, a city racked with social unrest and upheaval, and a world plagued by a horrific influenza pandemic. Any of these challenges could have changed their destiny. More of them could have died in Europe. The Olympics in Antwerp could have been canceled, and the hockey authorities could have successfully shut them out of play. But despite these myriad challenges, the Falcons endured. Thus, thanks to the Falcons' perseverance, determination, and grit, in the midst of one of the darkest periods of our collective history, the Falcons gave Winnipeggers, Manitobans, and Canadians something to cheer about. Thanks to their efforts, for the first time, we Canadians were acknowledged to be what we always knew we were, the world's best at a sport we love. So for me, the importance of the Falcons' victory in the Antwerp Olympics is about more than just hockey. It's about overcoming adversity. It's about the strength of community. It's about having faith in one another and not giving up. The men of the Falcons are examples we can all emulate, especially in these trying times. In them, we see the enduring spirit of Winnipeg and Manitoba, and that is why I felt compelled to nominate their victory as a national historic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel Grebstead. And for our final speaker, I'd like to welcome Winnipeg Falcon descendant Ms. Kathy Eliasson to the stage to speak on behalf of the descendants.
Well, good morning. Welcome all, honored guests, and most importantly, descendants of the Falcons. It's my honor to represent the descendants of Winnipeg Falcons players today. I've spent the last few months contacting as many family members of the Falcons as I could find. I had a bit of a head start because Allison Goodman and Heidi Arneson Hilton and I, 2 years ago, were going to throw a wonderful centenary celebration for them, but the unfortunate COVID came along. We did get a database started, so that's from whence I began. I thoroughly enjoyed meeting everybody online, and thank you all the families for the connections that you provided. We have descendants here today representing Bobby Benson, Wally Byron, Frank Frederickson, Mike Goodman, Slim Holderson, Connie Johannesson, and Huck Woodman. All the players except the Chris Ritkinson family, whom I could not find in Winnipeg or Harvard, where many Ritkinsons survived, but not related, of course. I'd also like to say hello to all the family members watching on Zoom. You are our honored guests today here as well. All the descendants were thrilled to hear that the Falcons were finally getting national recognition, not just through the community sports teams with their inductions into the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame and the Olympic Hall of Fame, but also for how they accomplished this grand feat of winning the first Olympic gold medal. All the players, except Huck, were first-generation Canadians of Icelandic descent, and they had reunited after the war, much of the team having served in it, and started the 1919-1920 season struggling to get into the Senior Men's Hockey League. They were rebuffed by the old guard and even had difficulties finding ice times to play. But they showed great tenacity and perseverance in overcoming the underlying discrimination of these challenges and eventually set up an independent league with Selkirk branding. As the season played out, they became Manitoba and Western Canadian champions, ultimately winning the Allen Cup, the national title, showing that no matter what your ethnic background may be, it was hard work and team play that won games. They had enough belief in themselves to rise up from being a small Winnipeg team to becoming world and Olympic champions, proving that seemingly impossible dreams can come true. Falcons families especially appreciate that this plaque recognizes the team and its achievements as a significant gift and one that all Canadians can be proud of. I'd like to acknowledge the 4 surviving children of the Winnipeg Falcons. Mike Goodman's daughter, Marcia Bradley, who lives in Texas, but has lots of nieces and nephews in Winnipeg. Many of them here today. Connie Johannesson's daughter, Lenore Williams, who lives in Vancouver, has a daughter and granddaughter in Winnipeg, unable to be with us, but has many nieces and nephews here. And Connie's son, Brian Johannesson, who lives in Kitchener and has kept the Winnipeg Falcons story available to the world through the Winnipeg Falcons website that he created. He is represented here today by his daughter Lynn and her husband Rich from Montreal. Unfortunately, his namesake, Connie's namesake grandson Conrad, was going to be here with his dad, Alan, but he got cancer back. Lastly, Huck Goodman's daughter, Kathy Nicholson, is here with us today. Kathy, I hope. And she was going to be with her grandson, Josh, Huck's great-grandson. The majority of the descendants present are grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and nieces and nephews, great-nieces and nephews, and some of us are old enough and lucky enough to remember our aunties, grandpas, and uncles, and have stories to pass on to the little children. The Winnipeg Falcons saga is timeless and has been written about in books for adults and children. David Square's novel, My Falcons Fly, is also being made into a movie. The fact that the Winnipeg Falcons are still admired today as the most remarkable band of teammates speaks to their athleticism, determination, camaraderie, sportsmanship, and love of hockey that shone through in every game they played and will be the team's enduring legacy. But for the descendants, proud as we are of the team's achievements, we also each remember a special individual man. His smile, jokes played, Sunday dinners, walks in the park, stories read, and visits from away. These are the personal memories
of our family heroes that we will keep close to our hearts and treasure. Thank you. For descendants, we would love to get everybody together after the plaque ceremony to have a picture, and maybe you would like to get your family groups together as well. Thank you, Ms. Eliasson. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to unveil the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada plaque commemorating the national historic significance of the Winnipeg Falcons. Mesdames et messieurs, le moment est venu de dévoiler la plaque de la Commission des lieux et monuments historiques du Canada. Commémorant, l'importance historique des Falcons de Winnipeg. I'd like to invite Colonel Grebstad and Ms. Eliasson to gather around the plaque for the unveiling. Once the plaque is unveiled, there will be an opportunity for those who wish to take photographs. Do you want the countdown?
Your drum roll?
It could be. 3, 2, 1. Okay, now have the rest of the official party. Please join Colonel Grebstad and Ms. Eliasson around the plaque for photos. Thank you for that. And now I'm going to take the opportunity to read the text that is on the plaque, both in English and French. And those of you who are hanging around afterwards, you can have a chance to look at it up close. But the text says in English, the Winnipeg Falcons Hockey Club, founded through the merger of two Icelandic Canadian teams in 1909, rose from a community organization in the West End to become Canadian and Olympic champions. In 1920, the Falcons won the Allen Cup after beating a strong University of Toronto team in Canada's Senior Amateur Championship. That same year, they represented Canada in Antwerp, Belgium, where they won the first Olympic gold medal for hockey. The skill and sportsmanship of the Icelandic Canadians who dominated this club, named for Iceland's national bird, have been a source of pride for people of Icelandic descent across the country. And in French, les Falcons de Winnipeg, club de hockey communautaire des quartiers ouest, créé en 1909 par la fusion de deux équipes canado et islandaises, allait devenir champion canadien, puis olympique. En 1920, il dépend de la puissante équipe de l'Université de Toronto au championnat amateur senior du Canada et remporte la Coupe Allen. Représentant le Canada à Anvers en Belgique la même année, il décroche le premier médaille d'or olympique au hockey. Le talent et l'esprit sportif des Canado-Islandais le retirent dans le club nommé après le oiseau national d'Islande, suscite la fierté des gens d'ascendance islandais partout au pays. So, before we conclude the ceremony, I would like to thank everyone involved in this designation for their effort and support in facilitating this important commemorative event. I'd like to specifically point out and acknowledge the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame for all their efforts over the last 2 years. On behalf of Parks Canada and the Historic Sites and Monument Board of Canada, I thank all of you for being here today to help with the designation of the Winnipeg Falcons Hockey Club as an event of national historic significance. I invite everyone to please stay and help yourselves to some refreshments of Pina Tarta, a traditional Icelandic dessert. Did I not pronounce that correctly? Someone can correct me later then. A traditional Icelandic dessert and coffee located outside in the hallway. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time here together.